US Secretary of State Marco Rubio begins a Middle East tour in earnest on Wednesday, seeking to reassure Gulf allies who view concessions in President Donald Trump's Iran deal that include a proposed $300 billion fund as too generous to Tehran. It is Rubio's first high-level diplomatic mission on the agreement reached last week to end the 4-month-old war. He says he expects to address allies' disquiet with the accord and that they will also discuss issues not covered by the Memorandum of Understanding. And for more on this, I'm joined by our International Affairs Editor, Rochelle Ferguson-Bouyahi. Rochelle, Marco Rubio is visiting these Gulf Arab states, and it's pretty much a mission to put their minds at rest.
Well, that's right. That charm offensive with Marco Rubio then continuing today, a trip to Kuwait and Bahrain expected, as well as a meeting with the Gulf Cooperation Council. The objective, as you mentioned there, Oliver, is clear, pitching, if you will. It's this 30-second or a minute pitch, if you will, of Washington's peace deal with Iran, signed just last week. You spoke about it there. There are excessive concerns that the United States has been particularly conciliatory, has given too much away to Tehran in this. And of course, when it comes to Gulf countries, their fear is that this is going to embolden Iran on many fronts and reshape ultimately the security balance within the region. That's without even mentioning oil flow in the region. A reminder to our viewers then, when it comes to this question of security, that the UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain all have quite large US military bases. Each of those have been hit during this war started by the US and Israel on Iran. It's really important to say to our viewers, the United States has offered very little information about how much these military bases have been, touched or impacted by those Iranian strikes. And there is some anger amongst Gulf leaders saying, we have these bases. They are consequential. They've caused us problems, not just in our countries individually, but also regionally. What are you going to do to help us out?
Now, what is it exactly that the Gulf leaders are so concerned about?
Well, there are a number of concerns that Gulf leaders have expressed, and as we've been talking about, Rubio will be there to address each one of those. If we bring this up for you on our screens, possible charge tolls for shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. I start with that because that is, of course, one that impacts everyone. Rubio has so far said, look, this is going to be a free navigation zone. Don't worry about tolls. We will ensure that everybody will be allowed to pass through this freely. Iran has said, well, actually, if we do want to impose tolls, we will do. It's our right to do so. That's the first point of contention with this rather shaky fault line. Secondly, you'll see on there this draft agreement includes, until now, this memo of understanding or misunderstanding, as some have called it, agrees, it has nothing on Iran's ballistic missiles. Now, Trump earlier in the week said, hang on a second, Iran will allow international inspectors back into the country. Will start to monitor their programs. Iran has once again come back and said, well, no, our missiles are a part of our self-defense. So that will never, as far as we're concerned, at this stage, be part of any deal. I'll finish up this question about the kind of release of Iranian frozen assets, because that as well has proved problematic. The United States, is no secret, has agreed to unfreeze some Iranian assets. The US says, look, they will, Iran, with that money, will buy US agricultural products, notably soybeans. Iran has said, well, no, we haven't agreed to do that. We're under no obligation to purchase US products with these unfrozen assets. And of course, then there's this question of Iranian oil exports. Now, to circumvent sanctions in the past, we know that Iran has always sold oil to China, but at cut prices. With the fact that these sanctions have now been waived by the United States, some estimates say that Iran could make an extra $30 billion a year just in selling at full price its oil to China. So a lot of concerns from Gulf states that this is going to once again embolden Iran.
Now, Washington cannot be accused of putting too much long-term thinking into its war against Iran. But is there a long-term goal in mind with regard to, one, this plan and also Rubio's meetings with these Gulf allies?
Well, it's interesting, Oliver, depending on who you speak to, there are many who say, the US has put little thought before going into this war with Iran. But Iran, on the other hand, has been mulling over ideas for a while. The long-term Iranian aim, according to some analysts, is to ultimately eject the United States from the region, riding on this anger that's boiling amongst Gulf nations. This is a fluid discussion within Iran, certainly diplomatically. Some Iranian voices then calling for, a rapprochement, looking at forming a more powerful group with perhaps Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, of course, Pakistan, that we know has been key in mediations around this Washington-Tehran deal. We know that the Iranian president headed to Pakistan on Tuesday. And, of course, there's the UAE. They've always had close economic ties with Iran. They could benefit also from this rapprochement, this, getting closer in terms of its relations with Iran. So there is a sense that, with behind all of this is efforts to eject the United States from the region and once again reshift this power balance that Iran has within the region.